Hi, Elizabeth. It's so nice to meet you. Thanks so much for making an appointment today.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, of course. So, what are you hoping that we can accomplish today?
So, I'm currently applying to genetic counseling graduate programs,
Mm.
and I'm in the process of hearing back from schools to see if I got an interview with them or not. And I'd
Cool.
just like to get some more practice in interviewing for potential programs and seeing if that's a
Absolutely.
possibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. I think having a little bit of practice before you're in like the real deal makes a lot of sense to kind of get some kind of understand what you're saying. So the way that we
Yeah.
can do it today is there's some really typical questions that graduate programs tend to ask. So I could offer you some questions and then you
Okay.
could kind of give an answer and I'll give you some feedback to tell you how you did
Yeah.
and what are some ways you can improve and the wonderful things that you did as well.
That sounds perfect.
Okay.
Yes, I'd love that.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so let's get started.
Okay.
So, a lot of times when grad programs are having these interviews, like the question they like to ask first and foremost is tell me about yourself. So, you
hmm
want to go ahead and give it a try and then we can kind of see how you did afterwards?
Yeah, sure. And then like I guess
Okay.
before I get into it, I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, are they looking for like how specific are they looking for? Because I
For
feel
the
like
tell
that
me
could
about
go
yourself.
from all the minuscule details to more broad. So I just want to make sure I'm like going into it knowing how
That's
to
a great
outline it.
question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they're not looking to be like, "Hi, my name's Elizabeth. I really love like eating like noodles
Yeah,
and
that
all the
that
stuff
is
like that."
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, check. hmm
So basically, they're wanting to know why is it that you're sitting in that interview seat in that Zoom room? Like, why did you
Okay.
apply? What are you interested in for the program? And why and what makes you a unique candidate? So just a really in your personal statement, you wrote a lot of these kinds of things. And so this
Yeah.
is just kind of like a snapshot of your personal statement, so to say, just to kind of give them an introduction to you. Because not everyone who's on the admissions committee who's going to be on
Yeah.
that interview has actually read your application material. So it's a
That's
nice
good to
way just
know.
to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right, that gives
Cool.
me a clearer outlook into my answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, my name is Elizabeth. I'm from right outside Chicago. I'm currently a senior at UW-Madison studying genetics and genomics and sociology, and I decided to pursue genetic counseling because I was kind of in this career dilemma where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then
Mm.
I decided to speak to a genetic counselor for an independent study project that I was doing. And I was asking her how she got into it. And she told me that she wanted to do something that had a large portion of patient interaction, a large
Mm.
portion of patient advocacy, and also she loves genetics. And all of those aspects of the job really, really, really aligned with what I wanted to do as someone that had no idea that I wanted to pursue genetic counseling. So I decided to look into the field, see what I needed to learn more about in terms of getting ready for potential programs and applying. And since then, I've been shadowing with various genetic counselors. I've been conducting informational interviews to learn about the different specialties, just broadening my scope of understanding of the field. So, and then I guess outside of genetic counseling, I'm involved in research on campus in a neuroepigenetics lab. I'm part of a social sorority. I'm part of Planned Parenthood Generation Action, which is a student affiliate of Planned Parenthood. And then I work as a College of Agriculture and Life Sciences ambassador, as well as work at a public health lab in the Communicable Diseases Division and their Cytogenetics Division. So a lot of my experiences kind of speak towards my passion for science and also advancing human health. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Elizabeth, that was really good.
Really?
Yeah, that
Mean
was
it?
really good. Yeah,
Okay.
so I love how you started with kind of just really brief demographic information about you, like where you're from and kind of like
hmm
your major and your university, that sort of stuff. I
hmm
was gonna tell you to because you kind of ended, but then you kind of tagged on at the end there, like what are the cool like extracurricular things that you're doing along
Yeah.
with your passion about genetic counseling, which is
Okay.
really important, really really important. Now,
Okay.
when you're in an actual interview, it's also a good idea to add just a little bit. And this is a mock interview, so you're not going to have this
Right,
information,
right.
but just a little bit of information about the program that you're applying to, because every
Oh,
program
duh.
has separate things that they're really like that they focus on, or like things that make them unique. And so it's useful to mention those and then tell me about yourself just very, very briefly, so you can
Yeah.
showcase you've done your homework and you know about them as a program.
Right, that makes sense. So like specifying specific like accolades or aspects of their program helps a
Yes.
lot.
Yep.
Okay, okay, that's
Yep.
good to know. Yeah.
Because some programs are just very can be more research centered. Some people focus more on a special like a speciality within genetic counseling or anything
Yeah.
like that. So just knowing that and just throwing it out there kind of is like, yes, I've done my homework, like that kind of stuff, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. Do you have any questions about that? Any other ones about tell me about yourself?
I'm kind of curious. I felt like I was rambling when I was going into why I am interested in genetic counseling, and I envision maybe tell me about yourself and why genetic counseling as two separate questions. Should I kind of
Yeah.
stray away in anticipation of being asked why I want to pursue that specific, like why I'm intending to pursue genetic counseling?
That's a great question, because some programs will kind of have the tell me about yourself and then why do you want to do this program as two
Yeah,
separate questions.
right.
So I think, yeah, I think it would be good. I don't think you really like, I think sometimes when you're the one talking, you feel like you're just like, from my perspective,
Exactly.
it didn't sound that way. Like you were being too like, she keeps talking about it. From my perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
So as long as you have, because that actually was the next question I was going to ask you.
Okay, okay.
And so as long as you can like delve a little bit into it,
Yeah.
about why genetic counseling as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
career, and kind of talk about, well, let's go into the next question then, since we're
Okay,
here.
okay.
How's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sound?
That's a good segue. I like
Okay.
that.
So could you tell me a little bit why you want to pursue genetic counseling?
So, I want to pursue genetic counseling because one, I'm very passionate about preventable diseases. I think as much as we possibly can as a health system getting ahead of diseases that have actionable actionable actions. I'm trying to think of like the right concise word to say.
You're
Okay.
good.
But yeah, things that we can do to prevent any sort of mortality or any sort of long-term health issues that someone may potentially go through. I think, again, getting ahead of that is something that I think should not only be accessible to everybody, I think that there should be adequate knowledge on why it's extremely important. And I think that genetic counselors have a really unique ability to take something so complex as genetics is and ever evolving and boil it down into a digestible and personalized, I guess, interaction between the genetic counselor and the patient to make this maybe really difficult information that they're hearing or this really confusing information that they're hearing into something that they can like interpret with all the scientific, medical, and psychological support that they may need. So I just love that kind of like multi interdisciplinary job that genetic counselors have of not only teaching, educating, in educating themselves, educating their patient, advocating for their patient. That's just something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
So again, when I spoke to this genetic counselor, she went through her like day to day interactions with patients and how, you know, like one day she might be working with a patient that has a family history of breast cancer and they lost their sister to breast cancer and they lost their mother to breast cancer, and how like you kind of have to take that specific patient and work with what their psychological state is and not overwhelm them with this intense information that you might be giving them. But then again, the next day you might work with someone who has no family history of breast cancer and you're delivering this really new piece of information that they never fathomed would have happened to them. And I like that ability to be dynamic and to be adequately supportive to the patient needs. So yeah, I again I just like the dynamics of it. I like that we're educating patients, and I like that we're advocating towards patients. So yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
work, Elizabeth. That was
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
That was
Okay.
good.
Okay.
I
Thanks.
like how you brought up the experience of talking to the genetic counselor that you did, because it showcases that
Hmm.
you're doing things to really make sure you're making the correct choice in your career and going to this graduate program.
Hmm.
The one thing I think you could add to that answer is, have you ever like shadowed a genetic counselor who like
Yeah.
did that? Who was
Yeah.
like, you actually
Yeah.
witnessed it happening?
That's true. Yes, I did. I shadowed
Cool.
a few genetic counselors this past summer in various specialties, so I did have that first
Yeah. So I think
encounter.
including something like that, like actually witnessing it, not just hearing secondhand from someone that you
Yeah.
interviewed, I think
Yeah.
that'd be a really impactful statement to make, just to showcase that you have done the shadowing and you've seen it and you can see how impactful it can be
Right.
firsthand, like in a
Right.
shadowing experience.
Okay,
Um,
that makes sense. Yeah, I understand.
cool. Awesome.
Hmm.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You ready for the next one?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Tell me a time you were a part of a team and what that looked like.
Ooh, the most recent one that I can think of is in my job as a CALS ambassador, we conduct these information sessions and take prospective and admitted students around campus. And usually we're paired up with like another ambassador or two other ambassadors. And we collaborate in weekly meetings and talk about ideas that we have, like about our information sessions that we may have that we want to add or incorporate into future information sessions. So, for instance, I'm thinking of during this past winter break, me and my supervisor, as well as my other coworkers, we talked about creating kind of a new format to our admitted students day. And I feel like what I really appreciated about that team environment was number one, I think that there is a really open environment in terms of listening to each other's ideas and critiquing them without being too harsh or too sugarcoaty. I think that there's like a really nice level of, how do I put this? A really nice level of being honest without being too like harsh. So I think like that environment, like that's an environment that I really thrive in because I'm someone who likes asking people questions about their ideas as well as like giving my feedback and hearing feedback about my ideas. So in a team environment, I am very vocal and I like to not necessarily like take the reins, but I really like to understand where people are coming from just so I know how I can help in any other way in terms of like improving an environment.
Yeah.
Um, if that makes sense.
That does make
Okay,
sense.
okay,
I
okay,
like that
good.
I like that you described a team that you were a part of, and it was like a team that you enjoyed being a part of, right? And
Hmm.
that you felt
Hmm.
like was really useful. And then I
Hmm.
also liked how at the end you talked about how you like to be an impactful member and kind of brought it more to like who you are as a human.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something I think you could do just to improve this answer for future reference,
Hmm.
is if you want to give an example of when you were a part of a team where you made that impact,
Yeah,
or where
yeah,
you were like your individual contribution. I think that can be really
yeah,
helpful. And then
yeah,
tying that back, because kind of what they're looking for this question is like you're going to be in a cohort of other people in this program, right? And so they want to
right,
make sure
right,
that you can work together and do that kind of stuff. And also, as a genetic counselor, you're going to more likely working on a team, a with your patient, but also
right,
with the other
yeah,
genetic counselors that are in the area. So having a way to talk about how you individually had made an impact, which you did, we just kind of need to add an example and
yeah,
then
like
tie
more
that
specifics.
back a little bit more
Okay,
specific, and
okay,
then tie it back at the end. And that's genuinely how I would be in a as a genetic counselor, both like in my cohort in the
yeah.
program and then as a professional out in the field.
Got it.
So
Okay, that makes sense.
you were
Yeah, I
just
felt
missing
like
that teeny
that was
bit.
like a little, yeah, I definitely, it took me a little bit to think, and I was like, okay, the most
You
recent
did
one came to
such a
my
good
head.
job though, because you're like, ooh, and so I
Yeah.
could tell that you were like, I gotta think a little
I
bit.
know, because there were so many things that like popped into my head, and I was definitely contemplating which one like was the best.
Yeah.
And that one, yeah, I think I need to think about this one more in the future, you know?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
definitely. And
Hmm.
if you ever get a question that's like a deer in the headlights, like, oh no, I've no idea what to say, it's
Yeah.
absolutely appropriate to just say, like, wow, that's a really good question. Like, I'm
Hmm.
just going to need a couple of moments to think about an answer. And hopefully by
Okay.
the time you've said that, your brain's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
comes up with
right.
something. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay, got it. Well, I'll do that.
Cool.
Hmm.
But honestly, the ooh was also very good that you did.
I know. I'm like, how can I prolong this?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's try another one.
Okay.
So, what are some strengths you would bring to the program, and what is a weakness that you have?
I'll start with the weakness. I would
Sure.
say a weakness that I have is I'm gonna tie it's kind of a strength and a weakness. I
Hmm.
am a very curious. I'm yes, okay. Sorry, I'm like really gathering all the
It's
thinking right
okay.
now.
You're good. You're good. It's just me.
I will say, yeah. Okay, I'll say I'm a very curious person, and that is something that I definitely pride myself upon because I don't hesitate to ask questions when I need it. And I also do, I'm just, not to say I need to know things, but like I need to know things at many different levels so that I can contextualize and understand
Oh,
them
sure.
and kind of boil it down as elementary as possible, just so I understand why everything is operating in the way um, that it does. So I guess I'll say that that's a strength. Like again, my curiosity. And then I would say a weakness that kind of goes into that is in the past, I love understanding things at a lot of details, but I do struggle with getting the big picture of, like, for
Hmm.
instance, I'll give an example. In many of my classes, we'll have to read scientific literature, and it is very dense. It's very wordy. I don't understand a lot of it sometimes. And um, we're typically asked to summarize that large piece of literature. And I have found that in that density, I struggle to kind of get out of the weeds and understand it for its big picture because I'm so preoccupied by understanding every single detail that I did not previously understand. And
Sure.
I've been working on this for a while because I think my curiosity, again, it plays me it helps me, but it also I think can sometimes curb me in understanding what I need to know. And sometimes I'm like, okay, me, Elizabeth, I need to know this because I'm curious, as opposed to understanding why is this important to like the greater picture. So
Sure.
I would say that is a significant strength that also acts as a weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great example. Um,
Hmm.
Something you might want to think about
Hmm.
is when we're talking about a weakness, you did this a tiny little bit,
Okay.
talking about how you're like, I've been working on it for a really long time. It would be
Hmm.
great if you mentioned how you're working on it and how you're making
Oh,
it better. So,
yeah,
like a
yeah.
specific example about how you're doing that, just to like, because everybody has a weakness, right? Like,
Hmm.
everybody has weaknesses. We're all not just like amazing humans, although we
Yeah,
are all
yeah,
amazing humans, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it can be, and just to showcase, it showcases that you're a reflective human, and also, which is important for a genetic counseling program,
Hmm.
but also that like I'm working on myself, man. Like I'm doing the things, like that kind of
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
I think also
Hmm.
a really specific example of when your curiosity has just like opened doors for you would be a really great thing to put in there too. Because
Oh, okay.
I like the
Yeah,
way you
yeah,
talked about it. Like I could see you as that kind of human.
yeah.
But just like a specific example always gives validity when you're
Okay.
talking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you
Got
have an
it.
idea of how you are actively working on it? Like a
I'll
tangible
say,
thing?
I think I don't know if this is just me kind of thinking out loud. I don't know if
Sure.
this is a good thing to say in a potential interview, but if any, again, dense piece of scientific literature has a summary or a conclusion, I typically read that, or like an abstract. I definitely read that. And from there, I'll go through the piece of literature and kind of weave my way through it based and like heighten my understanding on the topics that they spoke on in the abstract or the conclusion. So kind of
Yeah.
using that as not to say it's a cheat, but just a little like it almost acts as a heads up. These things are important. This is what you
Yeah.
need to know. So I'll turn my focus
Yeah.
into looking at those parts of the piece of like the
Cool.
article.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
And then how do you think that like using that kind of way to fix it or like to
Mhm.
tangible to help you with it, how does that translate into like your knowledge of what career like what genetic counseling as a field? Like how could you use that as a genetic counselor, you think?
I think, I mean, genetic counselors, they have, again, kind of why I was saying I like genetic counseling is because they have to
Yep.
deal with, again, the psychological, the scientific, the emotional, all of the above.
Yeah.
I think when you have so many influxes that you're kind of juggling with at one time, I, from a person to person level, I know instinctually like what to prioritize based off of the demeanor of somebody. So they might be
Sure.
coming in to learn more about a BRCA mutation and why this is important to know and take action, but like they're super distressed because they like recently lost their mother to breast
Right.
cancer. And I think reading body language and reading not only their body language, but like reading their responses to what I'm saying is really important for me to take all of these pieces of information that I'm working with and prioritize the patient because at the end of the day, the patient is what takes precedence in these counseling sessions. So
Yeah.
it's easier for me to see in front of my face when working with another person what
Sure.
the needs are at the present time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm wondering how we can weave that into like this question because I think that
Mhm.
is so paramount to the genetic counseling experience, right?
Mhm.
So maybe that like kind of what you mentioned would be a great thing to talk about for like the curiosity thing. So
Mhm.
like talking about a way that you used your curiosity and say, and I can see how that would really help because when you're in a genetic counseling situation with another human, really taking in all the different parts of information, whether that's their like body language, the
Mhm.
word like what they're saying and like what kind of data we're getting, like putting it all together really helps. I don't know. It's something to think about.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a
Yeah.
lot. Like it's kind of it's almost funny because like it's a lot to think about because my brain wants to think about all of it, you know? So
Yeah.
it's a little hard to wrap my head around sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll chew on that.
Okay. All right. Let's think about the next question.
Okay.
Okay. What are your long term goals that you have kind of 5 to 10 years after being in this program?
Long-term goal that is pretty significant to me right now is advancing awareness of the field outside of the United States. The United
Oh,
States
cool.
is the most has the most genetic counselors in the whole world, and that's something definitely to be proud of, but that doesn't mean that we can't, extend our resources to countries or nations or areas that may really benefit from the field. And when I say really benefit, I know for a fact every single person deserves genetic counseling, no matter their background. That could be socioeconomic status, race, gender, religious affiliation, all of the above. I
Yeah.
recently did a comparative research project on the status of genetic counseling, specifically the status of the BRCA1, BRCA2 test in the United States versus Switzerland when I was studying abroad there. That's actually
Yeah.
how I got to speak with the genetic counselor that exposed me to the field. So in that, I learned a lot about how there's so much different interplay between not only down to the level of scientific knowledge of a community, but also the religious status and the trust of the government and how well insurance takes care of people from different socioeconomic status. And there are so many impacts that a region or country or town has that directly has patient outcome impacts. And
Yeah.
that's something that quite frankly frustrates me, that there is no control that the individual has in terms of their quality of healthcare. They're kind of not, I don't want to say born into a specific quality of healthcare, but based off of where they live, and again, these other impacts that I spoke of before,
Yeah.
they are exposed to differing levels of potential genetic counseling care, and that's something that I really am passionate about expanding for people that may not know anything about the field, and again, could deeply benefit from the impact of genetic counselors. So I'm
Yeah.
really grateful again for that study abroad experience and how much it exposed me to, again, the varying levels of healthcare at many different levels and how it, again, directs patient outcomes.
Yeah. Elizabeth, what I loved about your answer is it's so obvious you're passionate about this.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good
I'm
to hear.
wondering, do you have any ideas about how you would accomplish that?
I've done a little bit of research on, I'm forgetting the acronym. I want to say it's like Trans International Genetic Counseling Group. I think it's like TAGC. I know there's a T in there.
Sure.
And I, yeah, hopefully, I hope I'm not wrong. But I know that their mission is kind of what I was explaining. They want to expand genetic counseling at a global level.
Cool.
And I would love to look more into what they've done in
Yeah.
terms of maybe traveling to nations that just have really poor healthcare and how they could weave and, interact with as many patients as possible, or you
Yeah.
know, educate a certain school on science at like a very baseline level and explain like why genetics is important. And I also would want to prioritize individualizing the level of education or the level of genetic counseling that you're applying to each different community, because again, each community is so unique in
Right.
terms of their relationship to science, their relationship to insurance, the government, to healthcare as a whole. So
Yeah.
there are so many different impacts that I think we need to remind ourselves that there is no one size fits all that can apply to any sort of, like, I don't want to say scientific intervention, but or I guess I should call it more like scientific introduction or incorporation, just because you
Sure.
have to be sensitive to the pre-existing state that these communities are in and their
Right.
level of willingness to accept your I don't want to say help, but like your information.
Or expertise. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think adding a little bit of that to the end of your answer there, I think would be very impactful to showcase that
Okay.
you've done some research about what are some ways that you could accomplish this goal, your long-term goal. I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
to have like a step by step, like this is what I want to do, but just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I care enough about this that I've actually done some preliminary research, even though this is a
Yeah.
long-term goal of mine. I don't think that
Yeah.
would hurt.
Okay, that's good to know. I like
Cool.
talking about that. That was like, I feel like that was the easiest one to talk about.
I
Out
could
of all
tell,
of
like
them, yeah.
your cadence was very like, and you're just were very excited about it. So I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
great.
that's good.
That's
That's
great.
good. Yay.
Cool. All right, I have one more question of kind of like
Okay.
what are the ones that they like to ask.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of programs like to ask, tell me about a time you failed or when you made a mistake and what that was like for you.
That's a fantastic question. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a little bit. I'll
Well
try.
done.
Oh my
Nice
God.
job practicing that
Yeah, I'm like,
skill.
I need to go to the bathroom and think about that. Okay, let me, time I failed. I'd say, can you restate wait, it failed, or what was the other part
Or
of the
made a
question?
mistake.
Or made a mistake.
Yes, and what happened?
I would love to believe that I make no mistakes, but that's not true.
That is not the human condition,
That is
unfortunately.
not, yeah, no, no, no. And that's not reflected in me like stalling, I swear.
But it's hard though to think about that because you don't want to like
God.
tell an interviewer when you failed, you know.
I know, I know, I know, exactly.
But they do like to ask it.
I know. Oh God, why? I guess
I
it makes
know.
sense based off what you just said. Failed or made a mistake.
Would you like
Um,
me to give you some prompts or like what other students have used
you
in the
know what?
past?
That would be really helpful because I'm
Sure.
thinking of really lighthearted ones right now, like kind of funny ones, but I know that may not speak to like what they may want to hear.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of students have being in research, because being in research means living with failure.
Yeah,
So a
yeah.
lot of students have talked about when they've been doing lab work and it failed, either in the classroom or in being in an outside of
Oh,
classroom research experience.
yeah, yeah.
Some people have talked about being in a situation like a group project situation, because a lot of times group dynamics mean that mistakes can be made or that
Mm-hmm.
failures happen, something like that. So those tend to be pretty common situations
Mm-hmm.
that students draw from.
Okay.
Does that ring any bells for you?
Kind of like I'm thinking about my research that I've done in the like it's not that you know what? Okay, I'm gonna try. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go right
This is
into
a
it.
safe space.
Yes, and thank God for that. Okay. I would say a time that I failed was when I was conducting my capstone research project last year. I was doing lab work and I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And I was working directly with one of the PhD candidates in my lab, and he was helping me, giving me all the information that I needed. But I just couldn't get the results that I was trying to find. And I guess more specifically, I'll outline what it was. Um, the research project that I was doing in the neuroepigenetics lab was looking at specific mutations that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. So we were testing out a gel electrophoresis for multiple genes that are known to, or at least hypothesized to be risk factors for genetic counseling, or oh my God,
Sure.
whoa, my brain's for
It's all good.
Alzheimer's disease. I just misfired there.
It's all good.
I so I was building these primers. We were putting them into the PCR machine. We were trying to get the right temperature, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. And my presentation date at the end of the semester was coming up, and I was trying and trying and trying to get the right primer. I was trying to get the right temperature, and it just wasn't working. And turns out that my presentation was the next day, and I was looking nowhere to getting anywhere that I wanted to be in my project. And that was
Oh
definitely a
no.
bummer because I was also having this, like, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but all these other people in my class were going really far, really deep into their projects. And
Yeah.
I was not only envious of the status of their project, I felt I did feel like I failed. And it was quite, I don't want to say embarrassing, but I did feel this embarrassing feeling when I walked up to present my project because of the lack of results that I wanted. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in dealing with that, it definitely was not, it was, again, obviously, it was not the results that I wanted, but I still learned a lot about how science is all trial and error. And we would not, I mean, I was born into this saying, my mom says it all the time, like, whoever Benjamin Franklin, I don't know if who made the light bulb, who like
Thomas
who
Edison.
oh my God, if I said Benjamin Franklin, it would
It's
have
all good.
been reject. Okay, but Thomas Edison, thank God. Okay, but Thomas Edison, like he created the light bulb after 100 million times. Like he didn't create it after the first, or at least I hope that's true. That's just what I've
I'm
been.
pretty sure that's true.
Okay, okay, good. But like science doesn't come with immediate results. Science comes with so much trial and error, and that's why science is so promising because to know how something does work, we have to know why it doesn't work in a different setting. And I just think that's a really important thing to remind ourselves in a really rapidly advancing field like genetics. There's so much more that we're going to discover in the future. And the mistakes, I don't even want to call them mistakes, but the failures that are coming out of all of these research labs right now are making headway so that we can better optimize the results that we want to come by down the line. So, yeah.
Elizabeth, that was really good.
Really? Oh my
That
God.
was like a slam dunk.
Oh my, wait, do you mean it?
I do.
Awesome.
That was
Okay,
really good. I
Thank you.
love how you talked about your failure and then what you learned about it and then how that translates to genetic counseling. Like that is
Great.
slam dunk, man.
Oh my
That
God,
was very
that's
good.
awesome. Wow.
Yeah, that
thank
was very
you.
good. Yeah, that was really, really
Great.
good. So
I appreciate
keep
that.
keep that locked in your brain for
Okay,
when
okay.
the actual
I'll keep
interview
it
happens.
locked.
Yeah.
Good to know. Wow. That's great. Thanks.
So those are the main questions that we kind of went over right there.
Yeah.
How did
yeah.
it feel to go through and kind of answer questions?
I think it definitely made me realize I need to prepare a lot beforehand. So I'm really glad I have these kind of samples in my brain. And also, like, thank you so much for your feedback. It really helped me
good.
understand what I need to do in the future to better craft my responses.
Yeah.
But overall, I think I do feel pretty good. I think it definitely is uncomfortable to kind of like have to sell yourself and
Yes.
also like not to say be honest, but like you want like there's so many potential answers that you could come to when you're answering these
Yes.
questions, and curating them to the best of your ability is something that I definitely think will take a lot of practice. So I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm kind of like starting to work that muscle right now.
Something also think about, there are a couple like some frameworks that you can use when you're thinking about talking, like providing an answer. Have you ever heard of the STAR method?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so the STAR method, it's kind of an acronym to use. So S is for situation, T is for task, A is for action, and then R is for result. So when it's someone's asking you some of those behavioral questions, so a behavioral question is like, tell me a time, or when you failed, or tell me about yourself, or like any of that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But you kind of have
right.
to provide like a little bit of a story. So having the STAR method can just help you remember to include all that information. So what was the situation that the thing happened? What was the task that you had to accomplish? Was the action you took to do the task? And then the result. A lot of people forget to do the result part, so it can be really helpful just to have that acronym in your brain to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that.
I think naturally you kind of did that though, which I think is pretty cool.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
Absolutely.
to hear. I
Yeah.
appreciate your help. This was
Of
really,
course.
really helpful. And honestly, going into the potential interviews, I feel a lot better
Good.
about my position right now.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
for future reference, you can come see us as many times as you want. If you're like, I just need one more chance, just like
Yeah,
right
I
before
definitely
interviews
will.
actually happen.
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
take advantage of that for sure.
Amazing. Cool. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much for joining me today, Elizabeth, and good
Yeah.
luck.
Thank you so much. This was
You're
so helpful.
welcome. Okay, bye.
Bye.